Imagine printing out a massive multi-page spreadsheet.
Okay.
And then, you build this color-coded, deeply nested directory of 45 different audio files.
Right, which already sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. And then you map out a sequential daily calendar of 15 mathematical formulas. And you do all of this. You dedicate, like, hours to this administrative architecture just to play a single 4-minute song on the saxophone.
I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive to how we're, taught to appreciate art.
Right.
Because we like to believe that true musical expression just sort of pours out of the soul, fully formed, unburdened by mechanics or data management.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today we're completely dismantling that romantic illusion of musical spontaneity.
We really are.
Welcome to today's Deep Dive. We're so glad you're here with us. Our mission today is to deconstruct a remarkably rigorous step-by-step system created by an alto saxophone player.
Yeah, and we actually have their hyper-detailed methodological guide for this.
Right, along with this really fascinating photograph of their customized sheet music. And their entire goal is to achieve absolute, unwavering mastery over one single piece of music.
It's intense.
Very. This isn't just like a practice routine. It is a blueprint for obsession. They're treating a flowing art form like an exact engineering problem to be solved.
And looking at the visual backdrop for today's deep dive, which I've kind of set up as a hybrid between a sleek recording studio and a massive, meticulously organized filing cabinet.
I love the aesthetic, by the way.
Thanks. I want to establish right up front that this isn't just a deep dive for musicians. Like, whether you are learning to code or, perfecting a high-stakes sales pitch or trying to become fluent in a new language, this source material is a masterclass.
Oh, totally.
It reveals how to break down any overwhelming, monumental task into standardized, manageable data points.
But before we get into the heavy methodology, the filing cabinets, the spreadsheets, all those 45 audio files we mentioned, we kind of have to understand the object of this intense obsession.
Right, because you don't build a system this rigorous for just any random tune.
Exactly. The target of this intense focus is a massively popular Christian worship anthem called "I Could Sing of Your Love Forever."
Yeah, and that song has a really rich history.
It does.
It was originally written by Martin Smith, the frontman for the Christian rock band Delirious, and it first appeared way back on their 1994 album Cutting Edge 2.
Which is a classic in that genre.
Oh, absolutely. And since then, it's become a staple. It's been covered countless times. But our author has locked onto one very specific version.
Right, their absolute favorite is a cover recorded in 1999 by a Nashville-based contemporary worship band called Sonicflood.
Sonicflood, right.
Yeah, they'd been active since 1997, and this particular cover was one of their biggest hits.
Yeah.
But the author points out a highly specific sonic detail that just grabbed them.
It's the female vocals on the track.
Yes, they are incredibly beautiful. But surprisingly, that vocalist wasn't even a regular member of Sonicflood.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah, she was a guest singer. Her name is Lisa Kimmy Wanans from the Nashville band out of Eden.
It is always those specific granular textures that capture our attention, isn't it?
Totally.
The author notes that they first heard this version because it was in heavy rotation on Smile FM.
That's the radio network.
Right, a Michigan-based network of contemporary Christian radio stations. So they heard it on Smile FM. They were utterly captivated by Lisa Kimmy Wanan's vocal performance, and this lifelong engineering project was born.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. I have to point out what feels like a massive thematic tension here.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, I Could Sing of Your Love Forever is a deeply emotional, highly spiritual worship song. It's about boundless love, grace, spiritual freedom.
Right.
Yet the practice routine the author builds around it is incredibly rigid. It's almost entirely mathematical.
Yeah, it is.
So is there a contradiction there? Taking something so ethereal and reducing it to like a mechanical grid?
What's fascinating here is that the author demonstrates how passion actually fuels discipline. It isn't a contradiction at all. It's a requirement.
Oh, interesting.
The emotional connection to the song, that memory of discovering it on Smile FM, the beauty of the vocals, that is the engine. It's the only thing that provides the sheer mental stamina required to endure the grueling 15-key process we're about to explore.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, without that deep spiritual or emotional core, this methodology would just collapse into a sterile, unbearable academic exercise.
The love for the song makes the grind bearable. So, driven by this appreciation, how does the author actually begin? Because they don't just, pick up the alto sax and start jamming.
No, not at all.
Okay.
They spend an enormous amount of time building a digital architecture first. Step one of their process is learning to sight read the song perfectly,
Okay.
but not just in the original key. They commit to sight reading it in all 15 key signatures.
All 15.
All 15. That means playing it with 0 sharps or flats, then grinding through the keys with 1 to 7 sharps, and then the keys with 1 to 7 flats.
I mean, just the thought of staring down 15 different variations of the same sheet music is exhausting. It's like translating a novel into 15 different languages just to fully understand the story's underlying grammar.
That is a perfect way to put it.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It's about establishing an absolute baseline before introducing complexity. To start this process, they go online and find a fantastic score of the song on musescore.com.
Right? Muse score.
But there's an immediate hurdle. The score they find is written in F major concert pitch, which is intended for a keyboard or synthesizer. So before they even touch their instrument, they have to manipulate the data.
Because the alto saxophone is what we call a transposing instrument.
Right.
Specifically an knee-flat instrument. And to understand the mechanics of what the author is doing, we kind of have to understand that quirk.
Yeah, lay it out for us.
In simple terms, a saxophone speaks a slightly different physical language than a piano. If a piano plays what it calls an F, the saxophone has to play what it calls a D, just to match the exact same physical sound in the room.
That always messes with my head.
It's tricky. So when the author goes into the Muse Score software and changes the lead voice from keyboard to alto saxophone, the software automatically shifts the visual key on the page from F major to D major to compensate.
But D major has 2 sharps.
Exactly.
And the author has a strict, uncompromising personal rule. Whenever they learn to sight read a completely new piece, they absolutely must establish an absolute baseline.
They need that ground zero.
Right. They must start in a key that has 0 sharps and 0 flats.
Yeah.
Either C major or A minor. That means they have to wrestle the software into submission to get there.
And the way they force the sheet music to comply is a masterclass in intentionality. In Muse Score, they navigate to the transpose menu.
Okay.
Then they select by interval and choose major second.
Got it.
Crucially, they also make sure to check the option for transpose chord symbols and specifically select single sharp and flat only.
It reads like a cheat code.
It really does.
Down, down, left, right, transpose. By interval, major second. And the result of that specific command chain is that the alto saxophone key drops down from D major to C major.
Finally.
It is finally stripped of all the complex sharps and flats. Then they go into the software, add a text subtitle, and type in 000. In their system, the 15 keys are numbered sequentially from 00 to 14.
Think about the underlying logic here. It's like running an incredibly complex obstacle course, but every day you adjust the gravity.
I like that.
You wouldn't start your training on Jupiter where everything is heavy and complex, right? You'd start in a zero gravity environment, which is key 00, to perfect your form and mechanics before adding the gravitational weight of all those sharps and flats.
And we actually have visual proof of this 0 gravity baseline.
Yeah, the photo.
Right. Looking at the photograph provided in our sources, it's an image of the actual printed sheet music. You can clearly see the results of this software manipulation.
What's on there?
Right below the title, there's the custom subtitle, Key 00. On the right side, you see the composer credit, Martin Smith.
Yeah.
You can see the tempo marking. A quarter note equals 90 beats per minute. And because they intentionally checked that transpose chord symbols box, the specific chords are hovering right above the staff for the intro. There's C2, DM74, F2, Jesus, and G.
The visual evidence really underscores the meticulous nature of the system, but, generating that pristine sheet music for Key 00 is just the beginning.
Right, because you've eventually got to generate sheet music for all 15 keys.
Exactly.
And you don't just need the visual sheet music. The author needs audio files to practice along with, which means they're about to generate a literal mountain of digital files.
Oh, yeah.
If you can't find the file you need in 2 seconds, you simply won't practice. So how does our author prevent this from becoming a disorganized nightmare?
They build an ironclad digital filing cabinet.
They really do.
Data management is the hidden foundation of any real achievement. The author creates a highly structured environment on their desktop computer to house all of this.
Walk us through it.
Okay, they keep all their music files in a master folder, literally named 06_songs _ keys.
Wow.
Inside that folder, they have a subfolder for every single letter of the alphabet. from A to Z. So, to file this song, they navigate to the S subfolder.
Because of Martin Smith.
Exactly. Then they create a folder named Smith_Martin. Inside that, a folder named I_could_sing_of_your_love_forever.
The photograph confirms this too. At the very top of that printed Key 03 sheet music, the software has automatically printed the exact file path.
It's all right there.
It reads /sync/06 _sing_in_Smith_Martin/I_could_sing_of_your_love_forever/og/.
It's a mouthful.
The granularity of the subdirectories inside that song folder is where it gets truly wild. They have 3 specific subfolders. One is MuseScore, to house the raw editable files for all 15 keys. One is PDF, to hold the printable visual scores. And the third is called OGG.
That OGG folder is the command center for the actual practice sessions. It's where they store the exported audio files, specifically OGG Vorbis audio files, of the software playing the song.
Okay.
Inside that OGG folder, they build 3 more subdirectories: 050%, 075%, and 100%.
Wow.
Using the MuseScore software, they export audio files for all 15 keys at 50% tempo, 75% tempo, and 100% tempo. They take all 45 of these generated files and sync them to a dedicated portable MP3 and OGG Vorbis player.
I have to stop and push back on this because it sounds like madness.
It does.
Isn't this complete overkill? Why on earth would you spend your Sunday exporting 45 different tempos of audio files? Why not just print the sheet music, put a metronome on your music stand, or use one of those pitch and tempo shifting apps on your smartphone while you practice?
On the surface, it absolutely looks like overkill. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the cognitive psychology of practice, it is a stroke of logistical brilliance.
How so?
The author is brilliantly separating preparation from execution. When you are holding a saxophone, trying to navigate a really difficult musical phrase, the last thing your brain needs is to fiddle with a software interface.
Right.
Or drag a tempo slider on an app, or deal with a text message notification popping up on your phone screen.
Oh, the distractions are endless.
Exactly. By pre-rendering every single audio file and putting them on a dedicated, offline, portable player, the author removes all digital friction and distraction during the actual practice phase.
There is a massive lesson here for anyone listening who struggles with procrastination.
A huge lesson.
The author isn't fighting procrastination with sheer willpower. They are fighting it with folder structures.
Yeah.
You do all the administrative, organizational heavy lifting on a Sunday, so that when Tuesday rolls around and it's time to practice, all you have to do is hit play. You've engineered an environment where doing the work is actually easier than avoiding it.
And with that frictionless environment established, the data is organized, it's synced to the portable player, the PDFs are printed, the methodology shifts entirely. We move from digital preparation to physical human endurance.
The grind begins. The author starts their physical practice in key 00, that zero gravity C major bass line, at the 50% tempo.
Yeah.
But wait, they still don't blow into the saxophone right away.
Yep.
First, they just sit and listen to the 50% tempo audio file several times. They actively absorb the rhythms, the melodies, the harmonies, the articulations, and the dynamics.
Because you cannot hit a target that you haven't clearly visualized, or in this case, oralized.
Right.
Listening first is vital. You have to hear the exact blueprint in your mind before your fingers can attempt to recreate it on the instrument.
That makes sense.
Once they have internalized that sonic map at 50% speed, they begin to sight read the printed score while the portable player loops the track. They do this on repeat until they can play the entire song perfectly at 50%.
Keep in mind, at 50% speed on a wind instrument, that takes a lot of breath control.
Oh, definitely. You're holding those notes twice as long.
Once that's flawless, they graduate to the 75% tempo file. Play on repeat until perfect. Then finally, the 100% tempo file. Play on repeat until perfect. And remember, that entire grueling process was just for key 00.
Baseline. Right, they still have 14 more keys to conquer.
The sheer volume of the work becomes apparent here. To tackle those remaining 14 keys, which range from 1 to 7 sharps and 1 to 7 flats, the author utilizes a brilliant concept they call key pairs.
Key pairs.
Yeah. They don't just march in a straight line from 1 sharp to 2 sharps to 3 sharps. Instead, they pair them up. They will learn the key with 1 sharp and the key with 1 flat together, usually on the exact same day, running through the 50%, 75%, and 100% tempos for both.
Then the next milestone is learning the key with 2 sharps, paired with the key with 2 flats. And they repeat this pairing process all the way up until they've learned all 7 pairs. This raises an important question about cognitive load. Why force yourself to toggle between a sharp key and a flat key on the same day?
Yeah, why not just group the flats together?
Well, musically and mentally, navigating a landscape of sharps feels entirely different than navigating a landscape of flats.
Right.
By forcing the brain to rapidly switch between those two environments in a single practice session, the author prevents their mind from getting stuck in one specific harmonic rut. It forces the brain to remain actively engaged, agile, and adaptable, rather than just coasting on rote muscle memory.
It makes me think of a highly sophisticated weightlifting regimen. You don't walk into the gym and immediately try to deadlift your absolute maximum weight.
Right, you hurt yourself.
Exactly. You build form at 50% capacity with lighter weights, and you meticulously balance your muscle groups. If you work your chest, you have to work your back.
Yeah, balance is key.
Here, the author is balancing their musical muscles by pairing one sharp with one flat. They are building a perfectly symmetrical foundation of technique.
That symmetrical foundation is crucial. And once it is built, once they have flawlessly sight-read the song in all 15 written keys at all 3 tempos, you would assume the project is complete.
You would think so.
You would think they have achieved total mastery.
But they aren't even close to done. Because being able to sight read perfectly in 15 keys is only half the battle in this system.
Only half.
True mastery requires taking the safety net away entirely. You have to remove the sheet music, stare at a blank wall, and rely solely on your ears. This brings us to the second major phase of their methodology, which is Step 2.
Step 2, learning the song by ear. The visual processing of notes on a page is a fundamentally different cognitive skill than translating a sound you hear directly into a physical movement of your fingers.
It's a totally different neural pathway.
Exactly. Step 2 is designed to bridge that gap.
To execute this, the author buys the actual MP3 track of Sonicflood's 1999 cover from Amazon Music. Then, they open up an audio editing software called Audacity. They take that original Sonicflood MP3 and transpose the audio itself into all 12 sonic keys. They transfer all 12 of those transposed audio files back to their trusty offline Ogg Vorbis player.
They love that player.
They really do. Then, they play along with the song purely by ear in one key until they can play it flawlessly all the way through, and they repeat that process for the remaining 11 keys.
It is an incredible, exhausting test of ear-to-hand coordination.
Wait, let's pause on a very specific shift in the numbers there.
The numbers.
Yeah, I want to make sure we clarify this because it stands out in the text. In Step 1, when they were dealing with the Muse score sheet music, they were managing 15 written keys.
Right, 0 to 14.
But here in Step 2, working with the Audacity audio files, they were suddenly only dealing with 12 sonic keys. What happens to the missing 3 keys when you switch from reading paper to playing by ear?
That highlights a fundamental, almost mathematical quirk of Western music theory. It comes down to a concept called enharmonic equivalence.
Unpack that for us.
Let me explain how this works. On paper, when you are reading sheet music, a key with 5 flats, like D flat major, looks completely different than a key with 7 sharps, like C sharp major.
Visually, it's a completely different map.
Right. They require a completely different visual processing from your brain. So if you are practicing sight reading up to 7 sharps and 7 flats plus the 0 key of C, you have 15 distinct visual landscapes to conquer. The math checks out. 7 plus 1 is 15.
Okay, so the eyes have 15 different languages to translate.
Exactly. But in terms of actual sound waves hitting your eardrum, there are only 12 distinct pitches in the Western musical alphabet before the octave simply repeats itself.
Okay, I'm with you.
The pitch D flat sounds identically to the pitch C sharp. It is the exact same frequency vibrating in the air. If you look at a piano, it is the exact same physical black key.
Oh, that makes total sense.
So when you take away the sheet music and rely purely on the audio files playing from the MP3 player, there are only 12 possible sonic environments to play along with. The visual redundancy is completely eliminated.
So Step 1 trains the eyes and the analytical brain to process all 15 visual variations of the language. But Step 2 trains the ear, the fingers, and really the soul to respond to the 12 actual physical realities of the sound.
That's a great way to put it.
And that brings us to the core philosophy driving this entire methodological guide. The author states their thesis flatly in the text. They say, "You've never completely mastered a song. I'll continue this process for the rest of my life, getting a little bit better each time I play the song."
That philosophy is the ultimate culmination of all this data management, the folder structures, and the repetitive grinding. It represents the profound shift from mechanical reproduction to true internalized fluency.
It's beautiful, really.
It is. When you accept that mastery is an infinite journey, the practice ceases to be a chore you have to finish. It becomes a lifelong companion. The goal isn't to reach a finish line. The goal is to inhabit the process.
To get infinitesimally better each time. So let's quickly recap this incredible journey. We started with a powerful emotional hook, discovering a beautiful guest vocal by Lisa Kimi-Winans on a Sonicflood cover playing on Smile FM.
Yeah.
But instead of just enjoying the tune on the radio, our author built a massive, mathematically precise architecture. They wrestled with MuseScore to establish a zero-gravity baseline of 0 sharps and flats.
Right?
They constructed an ironclad folder structure, 06 underscore songs underscore in underscore all underscore keys, to house PDFs and Ogg Vorbis audio files at 3 different tempos, effectively fighting procrastination with organization.
They systematically ground through those tempos, balancing their cognitive load by pairing sharp keys with flat keys on the same day to keep their brain agile.
Exactly.
And finally, they stripped away the visual safety nets entirely, utilizing Audacity to transpose the original Amazon Music MP3, forcing themselves to internalize the 12 physical sonic keys purely by ear.
The ultimate takeaway here isn't that you need to go out and learn the alto saxophone.
No, definitely not.
The lesson is about how you approach the biggest, most intimidating goals in your own life. Separate your preparation from your execution. Build your folder structures, pre-render your files, and eliminate digital friction before you step into the practice arena. Make doing the hard work the easiest possible option.
And as we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Oh, Tara.
We've just spent all this time dissecting an individual's lifelong mathematical devotion to mastering one single piece of music. If true mastery means practicing the exact same thing for the rest of your life, getting just a tiny fraction of a percent better each time, what is the one skill, the one idea, or the one song in your own life that is actually worthy of a 15-key, 3-tempo level of devotion?
That is a brilliant question to end on, because once you find that thing, the overwhelming mechanics of mastery become a lot less murky, and the exact engineering problem becomes a joy to solve. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.